Marvelous hello, friends and loved ones! How are you today? Allow me to propose to you a couple of questions. Just who is the man in the suit? Who is the cat with the beak? Do you really want to feel him? Harvey Attorney, habeas corpus, Marvy Attorney. The answer to all of these questions and more is, of course, Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law was originally created as a spin-off to the late-night parody talk show Space Ghost Coast to Coast. The show starred classic Hanna-Barbera cartoon characters from the 60s and 70s in a more comedic environment, with titular hero Harvey Birdman working as an attorney at the Seven & Seven law firm and frequently playing the role of a defense attorney for other famous cartoon characters, such as defending Shaggy and Scooby on marijuana charges to helping take down Jabberjaw and the Neptunes for plagiarism. The show aired on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim block and ran for 39 episodes across 4 seasons from 2000 to 2007. And around the time the show was starting to wrap up, Capcom's Ace Attorney series was picking up steam, and through what I'm going to assume was a mildly confusing series of pitches and business meetings, the planets perfectly aligned, and Adult Swim and Capcom worked together to create a video game set in the world of Harvey Birdman with the gameplay mechanics of Ace Attorney. The game was released in 2008 for the PlayStation 2, PSP, and Wii, and I remember buying the game brand new for the PS2 when it came out. Then a few hours later, I stopped playing it because I'd beaten it, but I'll talk more about that later. Much like an Ace Attorney game, Harvey Birdman is split up into 5 cases, and there are 2 primary modes of play. When you're in the courtroom, you'll have to listen to witness testimony, and during cross-examinations, you'll be able to either press a specific statement to get more information, or present a piece of evidence you'd picked up that contradicts what the witness is saying. The other mode is investigation mode, where you can examine things to pick up evidence, move from place to place, talk to anyone who might be nearby, or present evidence or profiles to activate events. If you've ever played any Ace Attorney titles, this all probably sounds very familiar, as it should. Harvey Birdman's main draw is that you're playing through the show itself. The game is absolutely loaded with fully voiced cutscenes, with nearly every single actor from the show reprising their roles. I think the only actor who didn't come back was Stephen Colbert as Phil Ken7 and Myron Reducto. In this game, Reducto was voiced by Crispin Freeman, so that's cool. You know, the same guy who played Heat in Digital Devil Saga? And several other more iconic roles, but hey, I'll slip in those Megami Tensei connections anywhere I can. The animation style is absolutely on point too. I mean, when discussing the graphics for this game, you may as well just slap one of those as seen on TV logos on it and leave it at that. At the end of the day, the clock ticks life away, the Harvey Birdman game isn't just a video game based on the TV show. It's a series of interactive episodes of the TV show. The very first case of the game starts with a mysterious figure setting fire to a building, before our first defendant, series' favorite character, Peter Potamus, witnesses the fire and decides to use the situation to form an impromptu weenie roast. The next day, Harvey is attempting to solve a crossword puzzle in his office, and the first bit of gameplay comes up. Every now and then, the game will simply ask you a question where there's either a correct answer the game forces you to eventually pick, or in certain cases, like this one, any answer will progress the story, but with a slightly different line in the following cutscene. Peter bursts into the office to tell Birdman that the building that burned down was Harvey's half of a duplex, before being pinned down by the cops. Peter pleads that we represent him in court on his own admission that
I didn't do it! Well, I mean, a fire was going out, so I threw your mailbox in to keep it going a bit longer for my s'mores, but I didn't start it!
And much like in the show, Birdman declares,
I'll take the case.
True to the source material, Birdman is up against one of his former villains from his superhero days, now acting as a prosecutor. In this case, Volturo, who and decides that we must because he was the first prosecutor from the TV show as well. Cross-examinations in Harvey Birdman are a lot simpler than in the Ace Attorney games, and while you can only make so many mistakes, it generally won't come into play. The first time I played this, I remember my main problem was being so used to the Phoenix Wright games that I was actually overthinking the cross-examinations in this title. Carefully sifting through every item's description, trying to find where the contradiction was, but in reality I just needed to press this one particular statement and the game would move on. Vulturo calls his first witness, Gigi, Harvey Birdman's wife, I think, who gives her testimony that when she arrived at the scene of the crime, she saw Potamus standing over the fire with matches in his hands. Naturally, we point out she's lying based on the evidence we have in our inventory, but even more importantly, she confessed under oath that we're married! Hooray! Birdman raises the question why Potamus would put his own name and phone number on the matchbook found at the scene of the crime. Potamus reveals he gave the matches to Gigi and also...
It's not like I could ever use them without thumbs at all.
So now we know for a fact Gigi was at the crime scene with the matches. Your Honor, this proves my client is innocent.
Bird girl to the rescue! I found a new piece of evidence.
Oh, jeez. In a scene that I have to assume was a direct parody of all the times someone burst into the courtroom to save Phoenix's butt with a crucial piece of evidence, Bird Girl reveals she found a lighter at the scene of the crime with the initials PP on it.
Oh, thanks for that evidence. That's great. For the other side...
And look, this next bit here isn't really a joke or anything, but I'm about to show you a clip from the game, and I just want you all to know that this clip has been stuck in my head for 10 years anytime I use, look at, or even think about lighters.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I believe that this is what we refer to as a smoking gun.
Or some people I know call it a lighter.
Naturally, this evidence does not help our case, so we have to truly think outside the box. Gigi revises her testimony to say Potamus was using the lighter to set the fire and she called 911. So Bird Girl rushes off to get the recording and we discover the call was made an hour and a half after she said she saw our client starting the fire. Suspicious much? And so Harvey lost all his stuff in the fire, including, yes, that thing Potamus sent him, which turns out to be a prenup agreement signed that Gigi gets half of any insurance claims. Luckily, Peter happened to bring a copy with him to the courtroom today. I have to say, as a fan of the show, I genuinely loved this bit. For those that don't watch the show, "You get that thing I sent ya" is a recurring joke with Peter Potamus in the series. So seeing it actually working out into the crucial piece of evidence in the very first case puts this game on a pretty good path in my eyes. So now we have motive, opportunity, access to the crime scene, and a reasonable time frame, but unfortunately, the evidence still points to the fire being started with Potamus's lighter. How can we disprove that? I know, it's a fake lighter!
Have you attempted to use the lighter? This is nothing more than one of those trick lighters that squirt water. Here, let me show the court. So, as you can plainly see, that man is on fire, and therefore this is not a trick lighter.
Okay, so the reason why I pointed that out is because this is one of this game's more interesting features. You see, each case has a hidden wrong answer that results in a humorous scene showing off a Street Fighter character. Capcom was involved in this game after all. Not only are these scenes a fun time on their own, but they also unlock special videos that you can watch from the main menu. I'll talk more about these later. Anyway, unlike an Ace Attorney game where we know the takedown is going to unravel the culprit's entire argument and result in an epic battle of legal wits, the evidence Birdman uses to wrap this case up is much more in line with the TV show.
While these may appear to be Peter Potamus's initials engraved on the lighter, if you flip it over, tilt it at a 90-degree angle while gleaming it towards the sun and possibly wear an eye patch, the initials clearly read GG.
After the case, things wrap up in Harvey's office, just like in the show. And just like in Ace Attorney, we use a piece of evidence to reveal that Gigi doesn't get any of the insurance money because the prenup was made out to Harvey Birdman. Then there's a Phil Ken Sebin laugh joke, and we even get a set of humorous credits. This whole case only takes about 15 minutes, which is about the length of the show. Like I said, this game is less of a licensed video game and more just a set of fully interactive episodes. So, I just went over the first case of the game in a lot of detail, and usually when I do these videos, I like to go over the entire plot of the game. Here's the thing though, for this video, I'm not gonna do that. One of this game's main draws is in its comedy, and the jokes obviously aren't going to be as funny if I carefully go over every scene with a fine-toothed comb. So instead, allow me to just quickly go over a few highlights of the remaining cases. Case 2 involves Birdman coming into work to discover his entire office has been ransacked, and through investigating, he finds evidence pointing to 2 different suspects, both of which he is then forced to defend in court for the crime of robbing him. There's also a business card belonging to
X the Eliminator!
Promoting a website called myharveyobsession.com. Unfortunately, the website is long since defunct, but thanks to internet archive sites like the Wayback Machine, you can still get some screenshots and snippets of what it was like. And I'd say it's pretty good for a laugh if you ever want to check it out. It even comes with a link to the Capcom store where you can buy your own copy of this amazing game. And the case wraps up with a bit of court in the hot tub, which is a good time. Some good old-fashioned jacuzzi justice. Case 3 opens up with what seems like a really simple open and shut case that you solve after a single cross-examination. But through a series of events I won't spoil, Harvey winds up in prison, and as luck would have it, the prison courtroom needs a defense attorney for one of their trials, and if Harvey wins, then he can use the phone. This case didn't stand out to me as much as the others, as the majority of it is spent investigating, which is never my favorite part, even in the Ace Attorney games, but it's still good for a laugh and even has Steve Blum in it. You know, the same guy who played Gale in Digital Devil Saga. And several other more iconic roles, but hey, I'll slip in those Megami Tensei connections anywhere I can.
You wanna hear me say something? Go screw!
Case 4 is all about violating copyright law as Peanut is arrested for illegally downloading music. That's right, folks, you can't just go around yanking MP3s off of YouTube, or there'll be consequences. Ignore that. I use that for making these videos. I'm not the one on trial here! Harvey has to come face to face with realizing that maybe he doesn't know Peanut as well as he thinks he does. I mean, the kid is going around illegally downloading music, he's got this fake ID with Ryu on it, but luckily, Birdman has a friend he can confide in. Himself. And also himself, and even himself. And the final case of the game starts with Phil Ken-Sebin on vacation, where he puts recurring series character Blue Falcone in charge of the firm. Falcone asks Birdman to help him recruit 3 of the best lawyers he knows for a very important case, so you have to recruit Voltoro, Freezoid, and Reducto to work a case for the 7 & 7 law firm. Finding Reducto is actually a bit of moon logic, as you can only talk to him by using a magnifying glass at the bar to get his phone number, but beyond that, I think this is a fantastic case. I won't go into any more details on this one, as I really do think people should play this one for themselves. They really do ramp the Ace Attorney style gameplay up to 11 on this one, and the writing is strong enough that I want to spoil as little of it as possible, and the game really goes out with a bang. I highly recommend it. So earlier, I mentioned that when I first bought this game, I stopped playing it after only a couple of hours, and that's certainly this title's biggest fault. It's just really short. Sure, it doesn't overstay its welcome, which is always nice. I can respect that over a game trying to pad itself out. But with the solid gameplay and the fantastic writing, voice acting, and animation, it's easy to find yourself wanting more. My total recording time for making this video was just under 2.5 hours, and that included choosing some wrong answers to make sure I got the unlockables, and even with the game having a couple of moments like this. The unlockables are a nice treat as well. For starters, the Street Fighter cameos that unlock them are a blast by themselves, I touched on that earlier, but the little videos are a nice reward for exploring the game's dialogue. You've got a highlight reel of Birdman saying,
I'll take the case!
Throughout the actual series, clips from the game of,
I think.
as well as bear and lobster cameos, and lastly a blooper reel, which are always a good time in my eyes. But much like the game itself, I would have liked a little more there, as the blooper reel is pretty short. Overall, Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law is a pretty awesome title in my eyes, and easily one of the best licensed games I've ever played. I'm honestly surprised more people don't bring this game up when discussing examples of licensed games done well. The game isn't expensive at all and can usually be found for under $10, so if you're a fan of Ace Attorney games, maybe give this one a shot. It's certainly worth the time and money. And if you're a fan of the show, I'm going to assume you've already played it, and if you haven't, then you definitely should. So before I wrap things up here, I actually want to talk about something I thought was pretty interesting. I decided I was going to be talking about this video game a while ago. I just thought it would be a good look back at a video game I didn't think many people had played, based on a show that I'm sure a lot of people remember liking. Well, between me recording all the footage for this game, And finishing the writing of the script, Adult Swim recently announced that Harvey Birdman is coming back to the air in a half-hour special this fall. Harvey Birdman, Attorney General. I'm certainly looking forward to it, and I hope all of you tune in as well.
Ha ha ha! Last laugh.